The studies regarding political culture in America are robust, including that of Daniel Elisar, John Zoller, Gabriel Almond, and Sidney Verba. Elisar, in his classic book American Federalism, A View from the States, argues that there are three dominant political culture types combined to produce 6 categories describing each state and city. The 3 political culture types are the individualistic culture, the moralistic culture, and the traditional culture. These cultures are paired to make 6 different refined cultures, which include moralistic traditional, moralistic individualistic, traditional moralistic, traditional individualistic, individualistic moralistic, and individualistic traditionalistic. The first term in each pair is the primary characteristic, and the second term is the secondary characteristic. The individualistic culture emphasizes the social and economic well-being of individuals. The relation one has with the state is that of clientele. One with such a culture would say, I vote for a candidate and pay my taxes. I expect to receive goods and services in return. Political corruption is more readily tolerated as long as the state is efficient. What is not tolerated is a dysfunctional state which does not deliver the goods and services and wastes the taxpayers' money. The state is treated like a business and the citizens like consumers. A moralistic culture emphasizes the common good. Individuals may make sacrifices to benefit the community. Their motto is, "We are in this together." For example, one who does not have a family might agree to an increase of taxes to better fund public schools. Although he does not receive direct benefits, but yet bears some of the cost to improve the education of others. He believes that what helps the community supersedes his monetary losses. Politics is not seen as a dirty endeavor, but rather as a noble pursuit and the best way to advance the public good. Inclusion, participation, honesty, and democracy are valued in politics. Finally, the traditional culture emphasizes paternalistic traditional rule. A rigid class structure dominates and very little social and economic mobility exists. Those who subscribe to the traditional culture believe that the ruling class controls politics and are wealthy because they are more intelligent and more virtuous than those they rule. This is considered the natural order of the world. Now consider education policy. An individualistic culture would strive for an educational system which prepares individuals for the labor force and works closely with industry. A moralistic culture strives for an educational system which seeks to educate all and teaches students civic virtue. In such a system, students learn to become better citizens through an understanding of the political system, learning history and appreciating the state's heritage. The traditional culture would endorse an educational system which has 2 tracks. One track trains the underclass to perform well in non-professional jobs, and a second track educates students in elite schools, preparing them to have high-paying professional careers and become political leaders. Most states have a combination of 2 cultures. For example, New York has a combination of individualist and moralist cultures, where individualist dominates. California has a combination of moralistic and individualist cultures, where moralistic dominates. A few states are of one culture. Nevada is purely individualistic, Minnesota is purely moralistic, and Mississippi is purely traditionalistic. Such diversity of culture in one country leads to conflict. Consider the forces that influence policy: representatives who represent districts, senators who represent states, and the president who represents the nation. The senators from Mississippi might advance conservative policies. The senators from Vermont advocate for progressive policies, and the senators from New York seek sound economic policies. And all these policies might conflict. Raising the minimum wage for the employees in fast food service might be very progressive, but might not make economic sense and certainly does not preserve the status quo. Compounding problems, districts within a state might have different political cultures. For example, in New York, Erie County is purely individualistic, Monroe County moralistic individualistic, and Albany County individualistic moralistic. Sarah F. Liebschutz argues in her book New York Politics and Government, in New York there is a great conflict between policies advancing business and progressive policies. Complicating the conflict even more, there are other forces influencing public policy beyond geographic characteristics, demographics, population, political culture, social structure, and economic system. There are the official policymakers, including legislators, the executive, agencies, and the courts. And there are non-governmental participants, including interest groups, political parties, research organizations, such as think tanks and universities, the media, and the people. The U.S. Constitution does not emphasize good policies as much as it emphasizes avoiding bad policies. Indeed, the authors of the Constitution did not seek to develop the best government, a utopian state, but rather feared developing the worst type of government, tyranny by one, a few, or the masses. The consequence of that is the federal government operates through consensus more than through the political power of one group. Perhaps this is why President Obama felt compelled to offer a more conservative universal health care plan, even though at the time the Democrats had a majority.